Oxford Exam Trainer, Level B1 Student's Book by Gregory Manning. Published and copyright Oxford University Press 2018. CD 1. Unit 1, page 10. Exercises 2 and 4.
When are you off home to America, Luke?
I'm going towards the end of November, just in time for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is the last Thursday in November.
Does the university mind your going?
No, they're okay about it. It's only for a week anyway. It's my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary too, so it's a pretty important time.
When's that?
That's on the 30th of November.
All that way, just for a week. It doesn't sound like fun.
It's fine, Elena. It's a really easy journey and I've done it so many times. I don't have a problem anyway.
So will you see all your family at Thanksgiving?
Sure. Thanksgiving's a family event in the USA. We always have a big meal together and eat turkey and pumpkin pie.
I always find those family parties a bit difficult. I usually argue with my brother.
I don't have any problems like that with my sisters, so it's okay. It's only one day anyway. After that, I go and see my friends.
Do you think you'll go back to the US when you finish your course here?
Well, I'd like to go traveling for a bit. I haven't seen enough of Europe, but then I'll probably go home and get a job. Actually, I'm thinking of getting a part-time job here. I'd like to work at weekends and maybe on Friday evenings. Maybe in a restaurant.
Well, don't come and work at my place. I'm thinking of leaving. I'm just too busy to do my college work.
What you need is a holiday. Why don't you come to America with me and meet my family?
No, I don't think so. Not this time, anyway.
Unit 1, page 10. Exercise 5.
1.
I'm going towards the end of November, just in time for Thanksgiving.
2.
It's my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary too, so it's a pretty important time.
3.
It doesn't sound like fun.
4.
Thanksgiving's a family event in the USA.
5.
I usually argue with my brother.
6.
I'm thinking of leaving. I'm just too busy to do my college work.
Unit 1, page 12. Exercise 2.
How did I become interested in family history? Well, my great-grandfather got me started. He was around for several years of my childhood. He died at 98, and I was fascinated by his stories of London during World War II, his move here to Australia. So many interesting experiences. But when I asked where our family came from, he said he wasn't all that sure, though he thought his father's family had been farmers in Somerset, in England, at some point in the past. Evidently, people of his generation weren't all that interested in family history, so it wasn't something they would often talk about. All he knew was that his father's father had left the countryside and settled in London sometime in the 19th century. Anyway, as an only child, I've always wanted to find more family connections, so I tried to learn more about where we came from. I've managed to find out quite a lot, actually. My great-granddad was right about the Somerset connection, and that both of his father's parents had come from there. I even managed to get in touch with some relatives who still live in the area. It turned out that one of my cousins was working on a family tree, and she was trying to find our branch of the family. So that was exciting. I've flown to England a couple of times, and I've met so many great people, including many relations I never even knew about. I'm getting married soon, and my fiancé shares my interest in family history. We're going to spend our honeymoon in the UK and see what other connections we can discover. Quite surprisingly, his family came from the same part of England, so maybe we can have a big family reunion with both of our families sometime in the future.
Unit 2, page 20. Exercises 2 and 3.
What are you doing, Susan?
I have too many clothes, so I'm trying to decide which ones to get rid of. What do you think about these tops?
I like that striped one. It really suits you. And the plain one is a good colour for you. I'm not sure about the flowered one. I mean, it's a bit girly for your personality, isn't it?
I don't know. I was thinking about giving the plain one away, but you have a good point. It's a beautiful colour. I think I'll keep it. The flowered one was a gift, but I don't wear it very often. So I guess you're right. I can definitely live without it.
Unit 2, page 20. Exercise 5. 1.
Hey, Mike, could you do me a huge favour? My cousin Stella is flying in at 2 o'clock tomorrow, and I have a lecture then, so I can't meet her. Would you mind taking the train to the airport and picking her up?
Sure, I don't mind. Just tell me what she looks like so I know who I'm looking for.
Well, she's in her early 20s. She's tall and thin with straight dark hair and brown eyes. She used to have wavy blonde hair, but she's gone back to her natural look. Anyhow, she wears casual clothes, so she'll be wearing jeans, a t-shirt and a jacket. She's quite pretty, so I'm sure you'll notice her.
So you said medium height with straight blonde hair?
No, I said... Look, I'll just send a photo of her to your phone. Then there's no way you can make a mistake.
2.
Oh no! I can't find my mobile. I'm totally lost without my phone.
I know what you mean, though my phone comes second to my sketchbook. It's important to stay in touch with people, sure, but I'm constantly stopping to draw things I see, and it drives me mad if I can't do it.
Can't you sketch on a mobile or a laptop?
I've tried the drawing app on the phone, but it's just not the same. I do photograph my sketches and save them on my laptop, but drawing on paper is the one thing I really love doing, so I always need to have my sketchbook with me.
3.
There are many ways to judge your personality type, but has it ever occurred to you that the sorts of snacks you choose to eat can reveal a lot about you? For example, outgoing and confident people often choose snacks like crisps or chips with ketchup because they're not particularly worried about bothering others by making noise. People who are well organized tend to go for healthy snacks, like small carrots or apple slices. Those who are not very self-confident or are self-conscious opt for whatever they can consume neatly and without being noticed, such as an energy bar or nuts. Though not peanuts because the smell is too strong.
4.
Are you planning to take up a sport this year? I've already signed up for the mixed football team. I think it's great having boys and girls playing together, especially as I know I'm just as good as a lot of the boys.
Yeah, I like football too, but I'm not great at it. Actually, I've decided on tennis. I was thinking about ice hockey, but I discussed it with my parents and we decided that we can't really afford to buy all the equipment.
True, it is very expensive. Tennis isn't cheap either, though, and it takes a lot of training and practice, doesn't it?
It does, but I'm willing to put in the time, and I already have a tennis racket. My parents are all for it. They just told me not to fall behind with my schoolwork.
5. People who are planning to visit London for the first time often ask me what the best way of getting around is. I think it's partly about personality and personal choice, and it's also a matter of what you can afford. I mean, taxis are a great option, especially if you're afraid of getting lost, but they can cost a lot. I'm a more adventurous, independent person, so I like getting a travel pass and using the buses. You can jump off when you see something interesting, and you get a real sense of the city, which is why I always recommend this method. Travelling by underground is good too, but it may be confusing because you can't see where you are, and it is often very cramped and uncomfortable. 6.
So, we're down to 3 choices for the memorial to our first female mayor. A statue of her by a local artist, renaming a street in her honour, or naming the Central Library after her. Personally, since she was such a modest person, I feel the statue is something she would not have appreciated. And I think anyone who knew her well would agree. Given that she was a great reader and a passionate supporter of libraries, I'm all for naming the library in her honour. The street name idea is nice as well, but we know how much confusion that can lead to, not to mention the expense to local businesses, so I really can't get behind that idea. Anyhow, you know where I stand, and I think it's time for a vote.
Unit 2, page 22, Exercise 4.
When I moved to the UK, there were plenty of things that took me a while to come to terms with. There are the usual things, of course. In the UK, they drive on the wrong side of the road. I can't remember how many times I nearly got run over by a car. The weather's not as bad as I expected, but it does get dark really early in winter. The language was tough too. People speak a lot quicker than I was expecting. It was really hard to keep up. But the strangest thing, and I know this will sound dumb, but the strangest thing was with the water taps. When you go to wash your hands, you have to be careful. They don't have one tap that mixes the hot and cold water. They have 2 taps instead, one hot and one cold. To make things worse, the taps are on different sides of the sink, so you can't have the water running together. You either burn your hands or you freeze them. It's crazy. Apparently, in the UK, you are meant to put the plug in the sink and fill it with water, and only then wash your hands. But I've never seen anyone doing that. Another thing that surprised me is the quality of the food. I was told British food is terrible. I was expecting lots of boiled vegetables, food with no flavor in general. But it's not like that at all. It's the opposite. There are lots of new restaurants that prepare local specialities, and there are some very good vegetarian places as well. There are plenty of interesting things to try at the farmers' markets, and the street food is excellent as well. I really like the cheeses and the pies, and my favorite snacks are Scotch eggs. They look disgusting, but they are delicious.
Unit 3, page 27, Exercise 10.
Good morning, this is the estate agents.
Hello. I'm looking for an unfurnished flat. I'd like to furnish it on my own.
Oh, that's fine. How many bedrooms would you like?
Well, I have 2 flatmates, so we'd like 3 bedrooms, please.
Would you prefer a ground floor flat?
We don't mind what floor it is.
Well, I have a nice flat in a quiet location close to the park. It's on the 1st floor. It has a fitted kitchen and central heating, so it's nice and warm in winter.
How much is the rent?
It's £800 per month. There are tenants in the flat at the moment, but they're leaving at the end of next month.
That sounds good.
Right, well, I'll phone the landlord and we'll discuss when you can go and have a look at it.
Thank you very much.
Unit 3, page 30, Exercise 3. I'm a nature photographer and I need to move around a lot, and so that's why I chose to live in a caravan. I can take my home with me wherever I go. It is a lot smaller than a normal house, but I've never been interested in having lots of things, so that's not a problem for me. It's also great because I can visit friends for several days and not get in their way, because I still have my own space. I have to admit that in really windy or stormy weather, it feels a bit like being in a boat on the high seas, but the chances of anything bad happening are pretty small, and I've always felt safe. I don't think I'd ever want to move back to a normal house or flat, you know. Unit 3, page 30, exercises 4 and 5.
Have you ever thought about living on a houseboat? The fact is, more and more people are taking this decision. In Britain alone, it's thought that there are around 15,000 people living on boats. So why are people taking this decision? One reason is that it's cheaper. Buying a houseboat is a lot cheaper than buying an ordinary house. Another reason is that people want to get away from busy, modern life to find a more relaxing lifestyle. But is it a comfortable way to live? I visited Ben, 24, a computer analyst, and Lizzie, 23, a newly qualified teacher, on their houseboat in Essex in the south of England to find out what life is like on board. When I first got on Ben and Lizzie's houseboat, it felt quite small to me. But as I wandered around, it didn't seem much smaller than my own one-bedroom flat. There's a living room, a bedroom, a kitchen, and a bathroom. I also came across a small storage room and plenty of cupboards. The couple also have electricity, running water, a phone, and broadband internet, so working from home and keeping in contact with people isn't a problem. So what are the best things about living on a houseboat? Ben and Lizzie told me that they loved most things about their unusual lifestyle, but that they particularly like the people. They say they get on with everybody in the community and that there's always a party or a barbecue happening on one of the boats. But are there any problems? DIY, the couple told me. You can't get away with doing repairs to your home. The problem is, when you're living on water, your house is constantly moving around, so things are always cracking and breaking, which means there are always repairs that need to be done. The wind and rain doesn't help this either. However, it's still cheaper than looking after an ordinary home, and don't forget, it's more environmentally friendly too. I finally got off Ben and Lizzie's houseboat and wandered back through the marina. The sun was shining, people were friendly, and there was a really nice atmosphere. I felt quite envious of their unusual lifestyle.
Unit 3, page 32, exercise 2.
My sister and I were both away at boarding school when our parents bought a new house. All they had told us was that it needed a bit of work and that it would be a fun summer project. I admit that the setting was beautiful. There were fields all around and some beautiful rolling hills in the distance. But the house was a total disaster. At first I thought it was a joke and that the real house was in the next field, but no such luck. When my mum proudly said, "Here we are," my heart sank. I could see that the roof was falling to pieces, several windows were broken and the walls were green with damp. And the inside was even worse. It smelled horrible. There were huge holes in the floors, parts of the ceiling were falling down, and the kitchen and bathroom were completely destroyed. Strangely, though, as we looked around, I started to see the possibilities. Even my sister, who hates mess more than I do, seemed enthusiastic. Despite its terrible state, there was a good feeling to the house, and we felt that it could actually become a lovely home for our family. However, my sister and I were extremely relieved when our parents explained that they would have all of the major work done by professionals and that we would just do painting and other small jobs. All in all, the project took about 6 months, but by the time we moved in the following spring, the place was quite amazing. I totally understand why my parents decided to buy it, even though I was disappointed at first.
Unit 4, page 37. Exercise 11.
In Britain, very young children go to nursery school. Then, when they are 4 or 5 years old, they go to primary school. At the age of 11, they go on to secondary school. A comprehensive school is a school for children aged 11 to 18 that you don't have to pay for and you don't have to pass an exam to get into. A grammar school is a selective school. This means you have to pass an exam to go there. Parents have to pay fees for their children to go to private schools. Some schools are single-sex, so they are for boys or for girls only, but most schools are mixed. When they are 16, pupils take their GCSE examinations. When they are 18, they do A-level examinations. At 16, they can leave school and go to work, or they can go to a college of further education. Here they can do traditional subjects as well as vocational training, such as learning to become a mechanic or a beautician.
Unit 4, page 40. Exercise 3.
I had a lot of friends who were thrilled about going to boarding school, but I was definitely not one of them. I was pretty shy when I was 10, and I really liked the local primary school I went to, so I wasn't looking forward to leaving my friends behind. Fortunately, it turned out to be a great experience. At first, I really missed my dogs, but I got to see them every few weeks when I went home for visits, and I quickly got used to not having them around all the time. My parents came to visit me quite often too, so I didn't feel lonely at all.
Unit 4, page 40. Exercise 4.
Hi, I'm Charlie, and I'm in my second year at a boarding school in England. I used to go to an independent primary school, and I was very happy there. But then I saw a programme on TV about boarding schools. It looked like a lot of fun. I decided that when I went to secondary school, I wanted to go to a boarding school. At first, my parents weren't sure, but then they agreed. Most people feel a bit homesick when they start boarding school. They really miss their family and their old friends. But that didn't happen to me. I loved every minute of it. There's so much to do when you arrive, meeting people, sorting out your room, talking to your teachers and finding your way around, that there's no time to worry about home. Boarding school is like any other school, except that you also eat and sleep there. You quickly learn the routine. At our school, breakfast is at 7:30. It's in the canteen, which isn't in the building where you sleep, so you have to get up and out of your room pretty early. We have assembly at 9, and then we have lessons in all the usual subjects, and we also go to lots of different clubs. In the evenings, we have supervised homework time, which means we sit in a room with a teacher and do our work. It's good because if we have any problems, there's someone that can help us. The other thing I really like about boarding school is that you have such a great social life. We have trips at the weekends and lots of other entertainment like concerts and plays that we put on ourselves. We're doing a school play at the moment. I'm not acting, but I'm helping with the lighting. Some people I know complain about some of the things at school, like the food and sharing rooms with people. I don't mind these things. I like everything about my boarding school.
Unit 4, page 42. Exercises 2 and 3.
Around 30 years ago, Isaac Asimov, a futuristic novelist, discussed the future of education in the digital age. He made a number of predictions, and I'm joined by Nicola Harris to see if his predictions came true. Nicola, what did Asimov predict?
Well, before we look at that, let's look at what education was like when Asimov was speaking. In 1988, most schools had little or no technology. Some classrooms might have had a video recorder and a television, but otherwise the only technology was a calculator.
So, what did Asimov say?
Asimov said that education was very structured, everybody learning the same thing at the same time, and so this was boring for some students.
I see.
When he was talking on an American TV show called World of Ideas, he suggested that learning would become more personal. He said that when people had access to computers and the internet, they could ask any question about anything and take their own learning in the direction that they were interested in. The idea being that this would make learning more individual and enjoyable.
Can you give me an example?
Yes. He said that if someone was interested in something like baseball statistics, they could do their own research and find out all about their chosen field, and this would mean they are more motivated. Someone else would have a different interest and would be able to learn about that.
Have the predictions come true?
Not really. Obviously, we now have the internet and we ask it lots of questions, but we tend to do this in our free time and not as part of our formal education. Classroom teaching still tends to have everyone doing the same things at the same time.
Why do you think this hasn't happened?
Well, I don't think anyone has really decided how best to use technology in education. Some teachers have begun to use some technology in their teaching, but some teachers are worried about using it, and in many parts of the world, schools don't have the money to provide the technology. For Asimov's prediction to come true, there would need to be a complete revolution in education.
Do you think it will happen?
I think it will eventually, but it will probably take another 50 years, and by then there might be further advances in technology.
So, we will have to wait and see. Thank you for joining me.
Unit 5, page 47, Exercise 7.
How to find a job. Step 1. Complete your curriculum vitae. This is the document that includes all your personal information, qualifications, e.g. diplomas, degrees, etc., and previous work experience. It should also include the contact details of 2 people that know you well at work or personally. These are your referees. Step 2. Look at job adverts on the internet and find a job that you are interested in. Download the application form, if there is one, then send it off with a covering letter which will explain briefly who you are, where you saw the advert, and why you want to apply for the job. Step 3. Wait to hear from the company to find out if they want you to come for an interview. Then start preparing for it. Step 4. When you are offered a job, decide carefully if you want to accept it. Then sign the contract.
Unit 5, page 50, Exercise 3.
Youth unemployment is a big issue across Europe. Recent figures show that 7 out of 10 young people in the UK spend at least 6 months out of work between leaving school and starting their first job. Some young people can spend as much as 18 months looking for work. Joining me to discuss this is Louisa Ward, who works for a youth charity in the UK. Louisa, tell us what you do.
Well, we try to work with young people from all backgrounds to help them find a job which suits them. But we focus on those who come from disadvantaged areas. Those from wealthier families have more opportunities to succeed, so they don't need our help as much. But our research suggests that less wealthy students, those who don't have much money, can really struggle to find work.
I see. So you do most of your work in inner city areas?
Yes, that's right. We do have some agents in the countryside, but we don't do much work in those areas. Most of our work takes place in towns and cities. We work with NEETs, which means people who are not in education, employment or training. We try to work with hard-to-reach people whose parents don't have money for the basic things in life, like food and clothes. We give them chances that they might not otherwise get access to.
What do you do to help them?
We work with a number of different partners, including sports teams and businesses. So, some of the people we have helped have learnt the value of teamwork and cooperation through rugby. For others, we have found placements in large companies where they have gained valuable work experience. These placements help students get a feeling of self-worth.
A feeling of self-worth? What do you mean by that?
Well, it shows them that they are important members of the community, that what they do has an effect on other people. They are part of something and they grow in confidence. But that's only one side of our work. Actually, most of what we do is on a more personal level.
I see. Such as?
Well, we give advice on writing CVs, interview skills, dealing with work-related problems. You know, it can be quite stressful if you've never worked before and suddenly you have to be part of a team and have responsibilities. Some people struggle to make friends or find it difficult to respect the people in charge. We also work with younger teenagers, encouraging them to stay in school and achieve better grades.
It sounds like you have your hands full.
Yes, we are very busy, doing lots of different things, but it is very rewarding. What we are doing is breaking the cycle. We hope the kids of the people we are working with today won't face the same challenges their parents did.
That's great. Louisa Ward, thank you for joining me.
Unit 5, page 52, Exercise 3.
Sometimes problems at work are connected to the actual task you need to do. You may be given too little time to complete it, or you may not be given the right tools to complete the task on time. It also happens that your work is made more difficult by improvements in your workplace. For example, if there's a new computer system being installed, all employees will have to undergo training sessions so they know how to use it. Eventually, the new system will help you do your job faster, but you need to take time out of your busy schedule to get to know it. On the other hand, problems at work aren't only about the work itself. I'd say that nearly everyone experiences some kind of conflict in the workplace at some point. Those of you who don't are very lucky. The difficulty is that work isn't only a place where people work. It's also a social environment, just not one that you choose yourself. This means that you have to deal with types of people that you may normally never meet in your life, and I mean both your colleagues and your customers. As far as your colleagues are concerned, one solution is to maintain a healthy distance between your personal life and the emotional demands of your work. To put it simply, do not bring your personal problems to work and try not to interfere in the lives of your colleagues. And customers are people just like you. They may have a right to complain about your service, and you need to learn how to deal with such situations. But they could just as well have had a bad day. One way or another, there are several good ways to deal with conflict in the workplace.
Unit 6, page 57, Exercise 10.
1.
Excuse me, I bought this CD yesterday, but it's scratched.
I'm sorry about that. Would you like a replacement?
No, thank you. I've changed my mind about it. I'd rather have a refund.
Do you have your receipt?
Yes, I do.
All right, that shouldn't be a problem.
2. Excuse me, I bought these shoes yesterday, but they don't fit.
Have you worn them outside?
No, I haven't.
Would you like to exchange them for a different size?
Yes, please.
Unit 6, page 60. Exercise 2.
In-app purchases can get you extra pieces of equipment or clues when you play online games, and the game app automatically charges your credit card when you do, and that's the problem. A lot of people don't even realise they've bought anything until they've seen the charges on their credit cards. Many people actually consider it a form of online fraud. However, you actually allow the game company to do it when you join the game, so it can't really be called that, I guess. Still, it does seem unfair, and I think that many people...
Unit 6, page 60. Exercise 3.
Hey, did I tell you what happened to me?
No?
Well, last time I checked my bank account, I found that someone had been taking money out about £1 at a time. Over £100.
No way! What happened?
Well, to start with, I thought someone was stealing money from me. But I phoned the bank and discovered that the company taking the money was an in-app provider.
A what?
Well, I have a farming game app on my tablet, and you can buy different things like sheep and corn. My son David was playing on the game and was buying all this stuff. He didn't realise every time he bought something, he was spending money.
Oh no, that's terrible. How much did you say he spent?
About £130.
Oh, what did you do?
What could I do? I was angry, but there was nothing I could do to change it.
How did David get your credit card details?
He didn't. That's the thing. The App Store had my details, and the purchases came through that.
Oh no, that's dangerous.
I know. I emailed them, asking them for a refund, and I've changed the settings.
Good idea.
I also had a long chat with David about the way the world works.
Very sensible. I have that game on my tablet. How did you disable the purchases?
You have to go to Settings, then Restrictions. Then when you want to make a purchase, it asks you for a password.
Great. I'll change mine tonight.
Yes, do.
Unit 6, page 62. Exercise 2.
So, that brings me to the last topic I want to cover, and that's the subject of money. The United Kingdom can be a pricey place to live, so here are some interesting ways to save money. The first thing to do is look out for voucher websites, like Wowcher and Groupon. These are websites that offer discounts on a range of things, including meals in restaurants and concert tickets. They can save you considerable amounts of money, but remember, you are only saving if you wanted to visit those places anyway. However, don't just go there because you have the vouchers, because that will end up costing you money. Secondly, think about doing your food shopping in the evenings. British supermarkets often have lots of special offers, and in the evenings, the offers are very good because supermarkets drop the price of goods that are close to their best before dates. Remember, best before, or display until, is different from use by. Use by suggests the food is not good to eat after that date, but best before and display until is just a guide for the retailer. So if something is past its best before date, you probably still have a day or two to eat it. Also in the supermarket, look for the house brands. Most of the major retailers have value brands and own brands. The value brands can be poorer quality, but their own brands are usually nearly as good as the well-known brands. Finally, shop around for a budget bank account and choose one that doesn't have any charges for paying in and withdrawing money. Such accounts don't have any charges at all. Make sure you only use free cash machines when you need to withdraw money. Some machines charge you as much as £2.50, which is not cheap and not something you want to be spending your money on. I hope these ideas are useful and that you enjoy your time in the UK.
Unit 7, page 70. Exercises 2 and 3.
I've never really had food-related health problems or any serious problems with my weight, so I'm not especially careful about how much I eat. I do try to maintain a balanced diet, and I choose healthy options when I can. The challenge for me is eating enough fresh vegetables. I really don't like salads, and most cooked vegetables taste bland to me, so I usually don't include them in my meals. I love freshly made juices though, so I've solved the problem by drinking homemade vegetable juices every day. I quite like the taste, and I know I'm getting lots of vitamins and minerals.
Unit 7, page 70. Exercise 4.
Good afternoon. Today, on the food programme, we're going to take a look at some of the best-known diets that are around today. And to help us do that, we welcome Dr. Wexford, food and nutrition expert from Newtown Hospital. Dr. Wexford, welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
Tell us first about the Atkins diet. It was very popular in the 1990s, wasn't it?
Yes, but it's actually been around for longer than that. It was developed in the early 70s by a man called Robert C. Atkins. His theory was that weight gain is caused by the way your body processes carbohydrates.
So it's nothing to do with the amount of fat you eat?
That's right. So basically, the diet allows you to eat a lot of meat and eggs, while in the first few weeks, pasta, alcohol, certain vegetables and other carbohydrate-rich foods are banned.
It seems strange not to allow people to eat vegetables.
Yes, and it's not an idea that I personally think is effective. Not that it's dangerous, mind you, unless you have some specific health problems already, but I still wouldn't recommend it. Now, in contrast to the Atkins diet, there is the healthy eating plan.
That just sounds like common sense.
Well, yes, but it's surprising how many people are still unsure of what makes up a healthy diet. Basically, the healthy eating plan allows you to have a diet that consists of healthy foods that are low in saturated fat and perfectly balanced. The meals are also based on your tastes and lifestyle.
Presumably, this makes the diet easier to stick to.
Absolutely. The reason that many people fail to stick to a diet is because they don't like the types of food they're told to eat. Often they have to prepare complicated meals with expensive ingredients. You can find plenty of good value healthy foods in the shops. You don't need to spend a fortune.
What would be a typical day's menu on the healthy eating plan?
It might be muesli with milk for breakfast, pita bread with Greek salad and yoghurt for lunch, chicken and rice with vegetables for dinner.
And, of course, this type of diet helps reduce your risk of heart disease and other illnesses too.
Unit 7, page 72. Exercise 2.
School meals in the UK have changed in the past 12 years since Jamie Oliver, a TV chef, started his Healthy Eating in Schools campaign. In 2005, TV chef Jamie Oliver challenged schools to change the way they feed their students. He claimed that children had a diet of fast food in school that was high in fat, sugar and salt. This diet, Jamie argued, was making young people overweight and unwell. In this report, I will look at how things have changed in the past 12 years. In 2005, Jamie was not only worried about unhealthy school meals, but also that students didn't know where the food actually came from. His actions had a dramatic effect. They led to new laws being passed in Wales in 2009 and England a few years later that limited the amount of sugar and salt in school dinners. But have these new laws been a success? Head teachers reported that it was difficult at first. The students weren't interested in the healthy food on offer. They wanted the usual pizzas, burgers and chips. But students quickly got used to the new menus, and it was soon clear that the changes were having positive effects. The children are much brighter in the afternoons. They have more energy and are not sleeping in class. It wasn't just about healthy food. Burgers and pizzas are finger foods, encouraging students to eat quickly. So many schools changed the way students ate by providing knives and forks so they didn't have to eat with their hands. As well as providing healthier food, many schools have also started to give lessons on healthy eating. One head teacher told me that when students know more about the food chain, then they take more interest in what they are putting in their mouths. Telling people to change their diets doesn't work. No one likes to be told what to do. The plan is to educate students so they want to change what they are eating. We can still do more to improve the diet of our children, but it seems that Jamie's campaign to improve school meals has been successful.
Unit 8, page 76, Exercise 5.
I'd like to book a room, please, for this weekend for 2 nights.
Yes, of course, madam. Would you like a single or a double room?
It's for me and my husband, so a double, please. Are all your rooms en suite?
Yes, they are. All our rooms have luxury bathrooms.
Ah, that's excellent.
What time do you estimate you will check in on Friday evening?
At around 9 o'clock, depending on the traffic. Will the restaurant still be open?
Yes, it will, madam. But you can also order room service if you prefer.
Unit 8, page 80, Exercises 2 and 3.
I wasn't expecting much from my holiday, to be honest. Judging from the online photos, the hotel wasn't anything unique, not special or luxurious, just your average tourist place. But it was all I could afford, so I went ahead and booked it. You can imagine my surprise when I arrived and found that the place was completely refurbished and looked like new. They had built a new pool, which I hadn't expected, and I didn't have to pay extra because I'd booked so far in advance. It was truly a dream holiday, and all for a really good price.
Unit 8, page 80, Exercise 4.
How was your trip?
Don't ask.
What? I thought it was going to be a dream holiday.
I am never going on a package tour again. Dream holiday? It was more of a nightmare.
Oh, what happened?
Well, you know we were going to Prague, Bratislava, Budapest and Vienna. All beautiful places.
Uh-huh.
But the tour guide on the coach with us was terrible. He was a lovely man, very friendly, maybe a bit too friendly, and he didn't know much about the cities we were going to, but I could live with that. No, the real problem was that he had no cultural awareness at all.
Really? What do you mean?
Well, when we got to Prague, the first thing he showed us was where to have fish and chips. I didn't go all the way to Prague to have fish and chips. I asked him where to have Czech food, and he told me not to bother because it wasn't very good.
But Czech food is great.
Of course it is. I went off on my own and had some wonderful food.
Oh, good.
Oh, it gets worse. So, in Bratislava, he proudly announced that instead of the usual breakfast, he'd arranged for us to have bacon and eggs, just like in the UK.
Yeah, because that is what Slovakia is famous for.
Exactly. Then in Budapest, we were meant to go to a place for traditional music, but he cancelled it and, you'll never believe this, he took us to a sports bar to watch Manchester United versus Liverpool.
I bet you enjoyed that.
The place was full of British people. And you know what? No one else complained. They were happy with the football. Why do people travel thousands of miles just to behave like they do back home? Next time, I'm going it alone. No more package holidays for me.
Be careful, though. Remember what happened to me when I went on holiday on my own?
Remind me?
Well, I thought I didn't need a package holiday. I thought I could book it cheaper online. I thought things would be easier. Anyway, it was a lot quicker to book, and I got exactly what I wanted.
But
everything went wrong. I flew to an airport that was about 40 miles from my hotel. The flight was 3 hours delayed, so I didn't land until about 1 in the morning. There was no public transport. I ended up paying over £60 on a taxi. Then, when I got to the hotel I'd booked online, it was completely closed. They didn't accept check-in after 11 p.m.
What did you do?
Well, there was another hotel 50 metres down the road. I had to pay to stay there. Another £60. Don't laugh. It's not funny. I was £120 out of pocket.
Sorry, it does sound terrible.
Unit 8, page 82. Exercises 2 and 3.
It was a couple of years ago, and it was December 24th. I was at the train station in Chicago. I'd been away for 6 months because I was traveling around Canada and the U.S. by train and by bus, and now I was trying to get home to be with my family in New York. I wanted to be at home on Christmas Day. My train was supposed to leave at 2 p.m. The trouble was, the weather was absolutely terrible. There was a snowstorm, and all the trains were running late. Of course, the 24th is the busiest travel time of the year in the U.S., so there were hundreds of people at the station, and they were all in the waiting rooms trying to keep warm. At 5 p.m., we heard an announcement that all the trains leaving the station that day were canceled. It was freezing at the station, but I didn't see any point in leaving. I wouldn't be able to get on a bus or even in a taxi, and I wasn't keen on going anywhere on foot in that bad weather. I decided that I could afford to stay at a hotel, but I thought they would be full, so I didn't bother phoning any of them. In the end, I spent a sleepless night in the waiting room with all the other passengers. A lot of them were angry, but I didn't feel like that. Nothing could change the situation. I phoned my family and told them not to worry. Then I spent the night chatting to some other young people. It was quite good fun, really. The next day, the weather was better, so slowly some men cleared the snow from the tracks. At last, the train started running, and I was able to get my train to New York. I finally arrived home late on Christmas night. It was lovely to see my family, and at least they had saved me some turkey.
Unit 9, page 90. Exercises 2 and 3.
Fly fishing is the kind of fishing where you throw a fishing line with an artificial insect on the hook into a stream or river. I think most people assume that it is a pastime for older people who aren't very physically active, but that really isn't the case. I took it up when I was about 8 years old. It was my grandfather who introduced me to it. He'd also taught my dad how to fish. Anyhow, my granddad and I became very close through this shared passion. I've always been drawn to the peace and the closeness to nature you get, and also the skill it takes to do it right. Somehow, catching fish was never the point, though I have to say we've provided some delicious suppers over the years.
Unit 9, page 90, exercises 4 and 5.
About a year ago, I took up underwater photography. I was already doing a photography course. In fact, I'd completed my second year, and although I enjoyed taking photos of plants and trees on land, I was looking for a new challenge. I read an article about underwater photography, and that's when I decided to give it a go. I loved the idea of taking photos of living creatures deep down in the ocean. I knew from reading the article that to be an underwater photographer, you have to be extremely fit too, and it goes without saying, you need to be an excellent swimmer. I'd done scuba before and a bit of snorkeling, so I thought the best way to prepare would be to get up early every morning and do 50 lengths in my local pool. Eventually, I enrolled myself onto a course and started to think about equipment. There's a lot of choice when it comes to underwater cameras, but the assistant told me it all depends on how seriously you want to take the hobby. He said that some people do underwater cave diving, so they buy special equipment that can operate at very deep levels. I wasn't quite ready for that, and anyway, the assistant told me that it was most important to feel comfortable holding your camera. In the end, I bought a mid-range kit that wasn't too expensive. Before we took any underwater photos, we had several weeks of learning camera skills and being given advice about what to expect. We did a lot of research about different underwater environments, from local rivers to the Caribbean Sea. Doing research beforehand means you are more prepared. It means you know what to expect and so can take better photos. I'll never forget my first big trip. I went on an organised trip to the island of Zakynthos in Greece. At first, I found operating my camera equipment quite difficult. I was so used to taking fast snapshots on land, but I soon got used to it and took some fabulous photos of the fish there. I'm planning to enter some photography competitions once I've had a bit more practice.
Unit 9, page 92, exercise 2.
Did you know that the 2nd of March is World Book Day? A day when people are encouraged to celebrate the art of fiction and read that book that they've been wanting to read. To celebrate the day in 2014, World Book Day did a survey of hundreds of adults and teenagers in the UK to find the ultimate list of books that will change your life. This list was made to help encourage more teens to read fiction. The results were a little surprising. Joining us to discuss it is Tina Richmond. Tina, what was top of the list?
Well, it wasn't as simple as that. The books were split into 8 separate lists, like books that will scare you, books that change the way you think, and books that will teach you about love. But the number 1 book overall was The Hunger Games.
Oh, my kids love The Hunger Games. But why did they decide to do the different lists?
Good question. A top 50 list can be difficult to break down. People will just see titles. But if you know that book will make you cry or scare you, then you will be more likely to want to read it. It also ensures that there is something for everyone. This is about providing choice. We all know that when we are in school and we are told to read a book, we hate it. But if we can choose, it is a different story.
Interesting. So, can you give me some examples?
Yes, of course. A Street Cat Called Bob and The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time were near the top of the list in the books that would change the way you think category, while The Fault in Our Stars was top of the category called Books That Will Help You Understand You. And Geek Girl and Diary of a Wimpy Kid were on the books to make you laugh list.
All great books, but not all written for teenagers.
No, but it shows that there is no such thing as an adult book or a teenager book. Good books are good books. It doesn't matter who they were written for.
What was your favourite book on the list?
Well, it's a difficult decision. I haven't read all of them. I love Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, for example, but I think my absolute favourite has to be 1984 by George Orwell.
Unit 10, page 100, exercises 2 and 3.
Hey, Kelly. I haven't seen you at the gym before. Are you doing a class here?
Yeah, I am.
So, are you doing a stretching class for flexibility? Or maybe some weight training?
I'm pretty flexible already, so I definitely don't need any more flexibility training. I could probably use some weight training, but I have no time for it now. For some reason, my balance is off, and I decided to give yoga a try.
Sounds good. My problem is that I'm not flexible at all. I'm really...
Unit 10, page 100, exercise 4. 1.
Most people assume that running is the best form of exercise, and I admit that it has many benefits when it comes to strength and heart health. At the same time, it can damage your joints over time, and it doesn't do much for upper body strength. Swimming, on the other hand, increases muscles all over the body and doesn't have the same harmful effects as running. Weight training can be great as well, but unless you do a lot of stretching, it can make you less flexible. So you can see why I'm all for getting into the pool if you want the best results.
2.
Dad, I know you just got me a new pair of running shoes, but...
You need to buy some more equipment, right? Well, what is it this time?
I was going to ask for a new cricket bat, but Teddy says I can use his, so I don't need it after all. But unfortunately, I broke my tennis racket and I really need to get a new one. I have a match next week, and right now I can't even practice.
Well, that's a relief. Cricket bats cost a fortune, but I'm happy to pay to keep you on the court. Do you also need any tennis balls? 3.
I hear you're trying out a new diet as part of your track training. How's it going?
It isn't too bad. It takes a lot of preparation, but I quite enjoy cooking, so I don't mind. And I feel a lot healthier already.
Is there anything about it you don't like?
I actually thought I'd have trouble with all the cabbage, because I hated it as a child, but I quite like it now. To be honest, the one thing I have trouble with is brown rice. It takes so long to cook, and it just tastes wrong somehow. I'm not too fond of eating 3 bananas a day either, but I can manage it.
Yes, I know. I prefer apples to bananas as well. Well, I think you're doing the right thing.
4.
There's been a lot of talk lately about women in sports, and I've always been supportive, but I'm afraid that I haven't always taken women's sports very seriously. That all changed for me recently, though. Sure, women can be amazing at football or volleyball, and they show skills in rugby that are equal to the male players, but the cricketers are something else. Quick, accurate, and even-tempered too, which is more than you can say for the male players. I wasn't really a fan before, but the Women's Cricket League has opened my eyes.
5.
Every sport has its little secrets when it comes to injuries, but nobody in football wants to talk about problems resulting from heading the ball and colliding with other players. Wearing an ankle or knee brace is pretty common. Nobody makes it a big secret when a player has a shoulder injury either. But headaches and dizzy spells are not widely talked about. Probably because the brain is not something you can put a bandage on and hope it will heal. Well, I think it's time we started discussing this, especially when it comes to very young players.
6.
Did you see the university rowing race on Sunday?
It was really exciting, wasn't it? I've never seen such a close finish.
I didn't realise you were a rowing fan, though. I thought you were more into car racing.
I'm not really a fan. I was just curious about it. As for car racing, I find myself getting so nervous expecting a crash that I can barely watch it anymore. But I'm really into horse racing now. I love it. It's amazing to watch such powerful animals, and the riders are pretty cool too.
I just hope you're not betting money on it. That's a great way to go broke, you know.
Unit 10, page 102, exercises 2 and 3.
I used to think doing sport competitively was not worth the effort until I started playing basketball. I began at school, discovered I was quite good, and joined a local team. We play in a lot of competitions and tournaments, and my aim is to go to the USA and become a professional basketball player. The thing is, people have so many negative things to say about competitive sports. I mean, they think it's all about obsessive training, getting up at dawn and running for 10 kilometres before breakfast, that kind of thing. But actually, most professional athletes have sensible training schedules. Personally, I go swimming or to the gym most mornings, and I also train with my team 3 times a week, usually at the weekend and after school, but I don't find that too much. Apart from anything, it's fun. People that play competitive sports have eating plans too, but they're not all on extreme diets to lose weight, or to put it on in some cases. They have proper diets advised by experts. This doesn't mean becoming a vegetarian necessarily, but it does mean thinking about what you eat and cutting out some things and eating new things instead. The other thing people think is that competitive sport is all about athletes taking drugs to improve their performance. In fact, very few athletes do that, and anyway, the testing they do to detect drugs is so good these days, it's almost impossible to get away with it. Taking part in competitions is great, especially for young people, because not only does it help you gain confidence when you win, but you also learn how to be a good loser and how to learn from your mistakes. Being part of a team or a club is good because you can support each other. It's amazing how helpful people are and actually how much fun it all is. It's a lot easier than just trying to do it on your own. I think all sport is good though, whether it's competitive or non-competitive, as it keeps you fit and healthy. But in my view, adding a bit of competition, even if it's only with yourself, adds more interest, and it's more motivating too.
Oxford Exam Trainer, Level B1, Student's Book, by Gregory Manning. Published and copyright Oxford University Press, 2018. CD 2. Unit 11, page 107, exercise 9.
1. Can I use your computer to log onto my email account, please?
Yes, of course. Hold on, I'll just type in my password for you.
Thanks, that's great. What do I do now?
Just click on this link and that should take you there.
2. How often do you surf the internet?
Every day. I do research and look things up for college. I'm also on a couple of social networking sites. What about you?
I usually go online when I want to chat to friends or buy some music or something.
Unit 11, page 110, exercises 2 and 3.
Of course, there have been quite a few famous female scientists over the years, but the most famous people in science have usually been men. Even most of my teachers were slightly surprised when I told them that I would like to join a mathematics club and become a scientist in the future. I was aware of a stereotype that the female mind is not really suited to mathematics or science. I've always thought it is unreasonable and silly, but it seems a lot of people believe it. Luckily, Mrs. Hopkins, my chemistry teacher, has always been very supportive. Also, my parents have always encouraged me to follow my dreams.
Unit 11, page 110, exercise 4.
I didn't really like learning science at school. I thought it was boring. But then we got a new chemistry teacher, Mr. John, and that changed everything. He was amazing. He really put the fun into science. He looked like a crazy scientist with thick glasses, a white coat and dark black hair that stuck out in all directions. We never knew what was going to happen. Almost every lesson he did these crazy experiments, which usually went wrong. He'd pour the wrong solution into the test tube and the classroom would fill with smoke and we'd all be laughing and coughing. Other teachers never let us use the science lab equipment, but Mr. John would let us do the experiments ourselves. It was great to play with the equipment and try things, but he was always there to help us. One day really stands out in my memory. He told us he was going to try something new and made us all put goggles on. He mixed these two solutions together and it started hissing and bubbling. There was no smoke, but the smell was terrible. I thought I was going to be sick. But what was really funny was that there was a knock on the laboratory door and the head teacher was standing there. She was looking very angry and asked to have a word with Mr. John. Apparently the smell had drifted all around the school. We could still smell it at lunchtime. Mr. John was giggling like a small child. To start with, I thought he wasn't a very good scientist, that he didn't know what he was doing. But soon I realised he was good at his job and he was making the mistakes on purpose. He was trying to make science fun and memorable for bored teenagers. I'm not sure it worked, though. Yes, it was fun. It was our favourite lesson. We all looked forward to it, but I don't remember much about what the chemicals were in those tubes. I remember the bangs and the hisses and all that, but not the important stuff. Actually, now that I think about it, I failed my chemistry exam. Mind you, I still think he had the right idea. That's definitely the right way to teach science.
Unit 11, page 112, Exercise 2.
Hello and welcome to Technology Today. Now, inventors have been inventing amazing and useful objects for thousands of years that make our lives easier. Think of the wheel, the aeroplane, the mobile phone. But what about all the completely useless things that have also been invented? Today, I'm talking to George Green, who is a writer and expert on the Japanese art of Chingu. George, welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
First, George, can you explain to our listeners exactly what Chingu is?
Yes, of course. Well, Chingu literally translated means unusual, and it's the name that's been given to the Japanese art of inventing clever gadgets that seem like a good idea, but are actually completely useless.
How are they useless? Is it because they don't work?
Not exactly. It's really because they might cause more problems than they solve, or perhaps because they are embarrassing to use.
And who first thought of the idea?
Well, a Japanese editor of a magazine called Kenji Kawakami first came up with a phrase. Then the idea was introduced by a man called Dan Papia as a monthly feature in a magazine called Tokyo Journal, which encouraged readers to send in ideas for totally useless inventions. Kawakami and Papia then came together and created a book on the art of Chingu. And a website was established which also proved extremely popular.
So, what kind of inventions did people send in?
Well, there are glasses for chickens.
What is the purpose of those?
Well, to stop chickens pecking each other's eyes. Then there are duster slippers for cats. These are slippers that you attach to your cat's feet so that it can clean the floor for you as it runs about the house. Another of my favourites is where you tie your wet washing to the roof of your car so that it dries while you're driving around. And let's not forget the all-over plastic swimming costume that stops you getting wet.
Are there any rules for Chingu?
Yes, there are some quite strict rules. For example, the inventions must never be patented or for sale. They are ideas only, and they must never be offensive either. Although they're funny, it's really quite a serious business.
Unit 12, page 117. Exercise 7.
1. A hurricane has hit the coast of America and high winds have destroyed many buildings. Heavy rain has caused floods in many places. 2. There has been a volcanic eruption in Iceland. Ash in the Earth's atmosphere has caused widespread disruption to flights. 3. There has been an earthquake in Turkey which has caused thousands of buildings to collapse. Rescue workers from around the world have already arrived at the scene and are attempting to help victims who are trapped under the rubble. 4. A very dry summer has caused a drought in many parts of Africa. Famine is expected to follow, leaving thousands of people without food. Governments around the world have already pledged to send thousands of dollars in aid.
Unit 12, page 120. Exercise 2.
Love them or hate them, huge wind turbines are becoming a more frequent sight along our motorways. Along with solar panels, they are an important source of renewable energy. But how effective are wind farms at providing the energy we need? Joining me to discuss this...
Unit 12, page 120. Exercise 3.
Love them or hate them, huge wind turbines are becoming a more frequent sight along our motorways. Along with solar panels, they are an important source of renewable energy. But how effective are wind farms at providing the energy we need? Joining me to discuss this is Lisa Baum, a renewable energy expert. Lisa, is wind power the future?
I very much think it is. There are so many benefits to wind. It's so much cleaner than gas and safer than nuclear. Wind farms are becoming cheaper to build and more efficient to run, making them better alternatives to gas or nuclear. European countries are leading the way. Germany already gets over 10% of its energy from wind power, and many EU countries will have already reached their wind power targets by 2020.
But I've read wind power is unreliable. What happens when the wind doesn't blow?
Obviously, that is an issue. But the technology is improving all the time, which means that even the slightest gusts of wind can generate electricity. Also, there is big investment in offshore wind farms, which are much more reliable. The largest offshore wind farm is in the UK, and there are 175 wind turbines producing 630 megawatts of electricity.
That sounds impressive.
Well, believe it or not, the biggest onshore wind farm in Europe is even bigger. 240 wind turbines on a 110-kilometre site near the Black Sea in Romania. But despite there being 65 more wind turbines, its capacity is smaller than the London sites.
Because the wind at sea is stronger?
Exactly.
So, what does the future hold?
Well, as the price of building wind farms comes down further, and the efficiency of the turbines goes up, it is hoped that countries will continue to replace fossil fuel power stations with cheaper, cleaner wind farms.
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Unit 12, page 122. Exercises 2 and 3.
I grew up in Ireland, which has a moderate climate. The summers aren't very hot and the winters aren't particularly cold, and the one thing you can depend on is that it will probably be cloudy and damp. There have been a few major storms, of course, including Hurricane Charlie in 1986 and Hurricane Katia in 2011, and we've even had a major snowstorm or two, but Irish weather isn't known for its drama. You can imagine my shock when I moved to the Midwest of the United States to go to university and had my first experience of a major thunderstorm. What surprised me most is that you can actually feel a change in the air pressure as the storm approaches. Your body feels heavier and there is a sense of tension in the air. Not only that, the clouds became so thick that they completely blocked out the sun. It was only lunchtime, and I thought that night had fallen. And when the storm was actually on top of us, it felt like the apocalypse had arrived. Thunder exploded again and again. The sky lit up like huge camera flashes. The wind roared and hail the size of golf balls fell from the sky. I was terrified. My first major storm in the US left me shaking and breathless. At least, I thought it was a major storm. For students who had grown up in the area, it was nothing more than a typical passing event, hardly worth noticing. Actually, the only reason anyone talked about the storm afterwards was because a very old tree on campus had been hit by lightning and had split into several pieces. Oddly enough, this storm opened my eyes to the fascination of extreme weather, and after a few more experiences, I decided to concentrate on meteorology for my university degree, which led to my job as a television meteorologist. I never quite got used to the storms in Iowa, but I certainly developed a respect for the powers of nature.
Independent External Evaluation Practice Test. Listening, page 195. This is your listening test for the Ukrainian Independent External Evaluation. There are 3 tasks for the test. For each task of the test, there will be time for you to look through the questions and time for you to check your answers. At the start of each piece, you will hear this sound. Task 1. Look at Task 1, questions 1 to 6. You will hear students talking about their lives and people talking about their city. There are 6 questions in this task. For each question, choose the correct answer, A, B, or C. Now look at the 3 pictures for question 1. Now we are ready to start. Listen carefully. You will hear the recording twice. 1.
Is it okay if I go out, Mum? I want to take some more photographs for my school project.
You've taken a lot already, haven't you, Darren?
Yes, I've got plenty of the church, but you know the footbridge near it? I walked across it yesterday, and on the other side of the river there's a house I hadn't noticed before. It's perfect for my project, so I want to take some photos of it.
OK. See you later.
Now listen again. 1.
Is it okay if I go out, Mum? I want to take some more photographs for my school project.
You've taken a lot already, haven't you, Darren?
Yes, I've got plenty of the church, but you know the footbridge near it? I walked across it yesterday, and on the other side of the river there's a house I hadn't noticed before. It's perfect for my project, so I want to take some photos of it.
OK. See you later.
Now look at the 3 pictures for question 2. 2.
We had a school trip to a really interesting museum this afternoon. It was good fun, not like our last trip and all the statues. I loved the video showing how things grow. There was also a model of the city which I wanted to see, but there was a long queue, so I didn't bother.
Now listen again. 2.
We had a school trip to a really interesting museum this afternoon. It was good fun, not like our last trip and all the statues. I loved the video showing how things grow. There was also a model of the city which I wanted to see, but there was a long queue, so I didn't bother.
Now look at the 3 pictures for question 3. Three.
I left my mobile in your shop this morning. I tried on some jeans, so it may be in the changing room.
I've just been in there and I'm afraid it isn't there. Where else did you go?
I looked through those sweaters and I came to the till to pay.
I would have noticed it if you'd left it by the till. Oh, look! Is that it on the shelf beside the sweaters?
Oh, yes! That's great, thank you.
Now listen again. 3.
I left my mobile in your shop this morning. I tried on some jeans, so it may be in the changing room.
I've just been in there and I'm afraid it isn't there. Where else did you go?
I looked through those sweaters and I came to the till to pay.
I would have noticed it if you'd left it by the till. Oh, look! Is that it on the shelf beside the sweaters?
Oh, yes! That's great, thank you.
Now you have 10 seconds to look at question 4. Four.
Excuse me, could you tell me the way to the art gallery, please?
The best way is to walk straight ahead until you come to the post office. Carry on and take the first right. Keep going, past the library and some small shops. You'll see the gallery across the road. The building used to be a shoe factory, so be careful you don't walk straight past it.
Now listen again. 4.
Excuse me, could you tell me the way to the art gallery, please?
The best way is to walk straight ahead until you come to the post office. Carry on and take the first right. Keep going, past the library and some small shops. You'll see the gallery across the road. The building used to be a shoe factory, so be careful you don't walk straight past it.
Now you have 10 seconds to look at question 5. Five.
This city isn't easy to get around in. Public transport could be better. Often the buses and trams are delayed and crowded. Having a car isn't much help, as the roads are so busy, so I normally cycle. I don't really enjoy it because of all the traffic, but it's the quickest way to get around.
Now listen again. 5.
This city isn't easy to get around in. Public transport could be better. Often the buses and trams are delayed and crowded. Having a car isn't much help, as the roads are so busy, so I normally cycle. I don't really enjoy it because of all the traffic, but it's the quickest way to get around.
Now you have 10 seconds to look at question 6. Six.
Do you still work in the library, Jerry?
Yes, but I'm hoping to leave soon. I've applied for a job in a bank.
Would you enjoy that?
I'm not sure, but the salary is better. I'd really like to be a teacher, but I need to go back to university to do a teaching course first.
Now listen again. 6.
Do you still work in the library, Jerry?
Yes, but I'm hoping to leave soon. I've applied for a job in a bank.
Would you enjoy that?
I'm not sure, but the salary is better. I'd really like to be a teacher, but I need to go back to university to do a teaching course first.
This is the end of Task 1. Independent External Evaluation Practice Test. Listening, page 196. Task 2. Now turn to Task 2, questions 7 to 11. Look at the 5 statements for this task. You will hear an expert talking about the history of the railways in Britain. Decide if each statement is true or false. For statements 7 to 11, choose T if the statement is true according to the text, F if it is false. Now you will have 20 seconds to look at the questions for Task 2. Now we are ready to start. Listen carefully. You will hear the recording twice.
Today I'm going to talk to you about the earliest railways in Britain. Railways now play a very important role in everyday life, both for passengers and for transporting goods. But of course they aren't very old. For hundreds of years, most people had to walk. The fastest way of travelling was on horseback, but only a small number of people could afford horses. In the 18th century, the first canals in the country were constructed, with the aim of making it easier to move goods from place to place by boat. The canals were of great value to industry, until the railways opened, and then canals were hardly used. The first major railway line in Britain opened in 1830. between the two big cities of Liverpool and Manchester in the north of England. Soon there were major lines linking cities all over the country. Trains travelled at almost 100 kilometres an hour, much faster than anyone had ever experienced. Some people thought it was impossible to breathe at such high speeds, so they were scared to travel by train. There were also fears about the effects of trains on nearby animals. Even some scientists thought that cows would stop producing milk, or the smoke from the engines would turn sheep black. We now know that this is not true, of course.
Now listen again.
Today I'm going to talk to you about the earliest railways in Britain. Railways now play a very important role in everyday life, both for passengers and for transporting goods. But of course they aren't very old. For hundreds of years, most people had to walk. The fastest way of travelling was on horseback, but only a small number of people could afford horses. In the 18th century, the first canals in the country were constructed, with the aim of making it easier to move goods from place to place by boat. The canals were of great value to industry until the railways opened, and then canals were hardly used. The first major railway line in Britain opened in 1830, between the two big cities of Liverpool and Manchester in the north of England. Soon there were major lines linking cities all over the country. Trains travelled at almost 100 kilometres an hour, much faster than anyone had ever experienced. Some people thought it was impossible to breathe at such high speeds, so they were scared to travel by train. There were also fears about the effects of trains on nearby animals. Even some scientists thought that cows would stop producing milk, or the smoke from the engines would turn sheep black. We now know that this is not true, of course.
This is the end of Task 2. Independent External Evaluation Practice Test. Listening, page 197. Task 3. Now turn to Task 3, questions 12 to 16. You will hear Dr. Sarah Kiley being interviewed about teenagers and snacking. For questions 12 to 16, choose the correct answer, A, B, or C. Now you have 45 seconds to look at the questions for Task 3. Now we are ready to start. Listen carefully. You will hear the recording twice.
My guest today is Dr. Sarah Kiley, a specialist in food and diet. Dr. Kiley, Is it true that British teenagers eat more snacks between meals than any other nation in Europe?
I'm afraid so. The figures come from a survey of over 200,000 teenagers from cities, towns and villages all around the country, following an earlier survey of younger children. The aim was to find out about eating habits. The answers show that 60% of teenagers eat snacks between meals.
Is that a worry?
Snacking itself isn't the problem, especially if it's only once or twice a day. But what worries me is that teens don't snack on fruit or vegetables, even those who know what's healthy. Most eat unhealthy food, such as crisps and chocolate bars.
That can't be good.
It really isn't. Some fill themselves up on snacks and then don't eat their main meal. That's a problem, because we mostly eat healthy foods, like fruit and vegetables, as part of a main meal. So if someone doesn't have dinner, they're missing out on vitamins, which are important for growth. And snacking can make them overweight.
What can we do about this?
We can't really try to control everything young people eat, but we can help set up a good environment for them. Most importantly, by schools teaching all their students about food and diet. Some experts believe it would be helpful if the government stopped advertisements for unhealthy food, though I don't think that would be very successful.
Do parents have a role?
Oh, yes, of course. If they know enough about preparing healthy meals, they can teach their children to cook. It's best if both parents and children eat healthily. Unfortunately, many parents don't know enough about healthy eating themselves. But what all parents can do is to reduce the amount of pocket money they give their children. We know from the questionnaire that too much of it gets spent on unhealthy snacks, so this could really make a difference.
Dr. Kiley, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Now listen again.
My guest today is Dr. Sarah Kiley, a specialist in food and diet. Dr. Kiley, is it true that British teenagers eat more snacks between meals than any other nation in Europe?
I'm afraid so. The figures come from a survey of over 200,000 teenagers from cities, towns and villages all around the country, following an earlier survey of younger children. The aim was to find out about eating habits. The answers show that 60% of teenagers eat snacks between meals.
Is that a worry?
Snacking itself isn't the problem, especially if it's only once or twice a day. But what worries me is that teens don't snack on fruit or vegetables, even those who know what's healthy. Most eat unhealthy food, such as crisps and chocolate bars.
That can't be good.
It really isn't. Some fill themselves up on snacks and then don't eat their main meal. That's a problem, because we mostly eat healthy foods, like fruit and vegetables, as part of a main meal. So if someone doesn't have dinner, they're missing out on vitamins, which are important for growth. And snacking can make them overweight.
What can we do about this?
We can't really try to control everything young people eat, but we can help set up a good environment for them. Most importantly, by schools teaching all their students about food and diet. Some experts believe it would be helpful if the government stopped advertisements for unhealthy food, though I don't think that would be very successful.
Do parents have a role?
Oh, yes, of course. If they know enough about preparing healthy meals, they can teach their children to cook. It's best if both parents and children eat healthily. Unfortunately, many parents don't know enough about healthy eating themselves. But what all parents can do is to reduce the amount of pocket money they give their children. We know from the questionnaire that too much of it gets spent on unhealthy snacks, so this could really make a difference.
Dr. Kiley, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
This is the end of Task 3. This is the end of the listening test. Thank you.